Say, have you ever tried to make changes in your organization only to be met with criticism from people? Well, what do you do? How do you handle it? Well, we're going to talk about how to respond to criticism with 4 strategies to keep your cool and actually help the other person look at the change in a new way. So let's talk about that on today's Pivotpreneur episode. Let's pivot.
Here we go. Pivot. Pivot. Pivot.
Well, hello, everybody. I am Todd Stocker, your Pivotpreneur host and coach. And this podcast, and actually this video podcast, is dedicated to answering your questions about life, about leadership, and about the pursuit of change. And so, big welcome to those of you listening on the podcast itself on iTunes. If you happen to be at a place where you can stop and do a quick rating and review, I'd love that. That'll get the message of what we do here at Pivotpreneur at the podcast, get that out to more and more people. And we've actually put these now all on YouTube, so you can run over to our YouTube station and watch me. It's a little dry. I'm just kind of sitting behind the microphone, but I am recording it live with very few edits. Probably last couple ones have had no edits, and you've probably seen that. So anyway, so we're going to be talking about that whole idea of how to handle criticism, 4 strategies to keep your cool. And one of the quote for today, I'm actually going to get back to at the very end of our episode today, but the quote is, "Eat the fish, spit out the bones." Now, I did a little bit of research to see, where did that come from? Who said that? And I couldn't find any author, but I like the concept. I've used that for 25 plus years of leadership, especially as I'm trying to deal with criticism in my own life. I eat the fish, the things that are helpful for me in that criticism or what those people are saying. But then I discard the things that I would consider bones. And I'll talk a little bit about that toward the end of the main content. And so where this all came from actually came from another listener, and his name's Chad, and he asked this question through pivotpreneur.com. And if you have a question about life, leadership, or changing and pivots in your life, how to do those in a healthy way, just go to pivotpreneur.com or toddstocker.com, and you can just send me an email through that. So Chad is somebody that I know, and he is a church leader here, actually it's not really, it's a little bit farther away from where I am, but here's what he wrote. Todd, my hardwiring, and that again is a work style survey that I do called Hardwiring. Just go to Pivotpreneur or toddstocker.com, and you can take the free version of that. Anyway, Chad writes in, he says, "Todd, my hardwiring is bent towards action and change. Much of the time, the changes our team makes are met positively by most people. However, sometimes we get criticism for changing basic things. For instance, we streamlined the way we offer for people to become official members of the church, and many of our longstanding members think we are being too soft on the requirements. How do I handle the criticisms I get from making changes that help move our organization forward?" It's a good question, Chad, and I know that is one that if you're a good leader and passionate about what you're doing and the ministry or the church or the nonprofit that you've been placed into, you're going to come up against criticism, especially from when you're trying to lead a nonprofit like a church that deals with volunteers. You don't have a salary hanging over their head with volunteers. So you have to be I think some of the best leaders in the world are those who work with volunteers, because you have to be able to meet their needs, but invite them into a bigger vision of what you're doing. So Chad, I empathize with you. I've struggled with this and thrived through situations of criticism in the past. So, we are going to face criticism at some point in our lives. All of us are. And again, not even whether you're in the church world or if you are in the secular world, it just really doesn't matter. No matter if you're going to try and make change, you are going to hit some resistance. You're going to hit criticism no matter what you do, no matter how major it is or how small it is. Somebody once said, the only person who likes change is a wet baby. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that sentiment, to that comment. So I've had many instances in my own life, Chad, when somebody made a negative comment and then I ended up stewing about it, right? It feels like a personal attack when there's a criticism about what you're changing or what you're making wanting to make different. It can be hard to take. So, somebody makes a negative comment and I've kind of processed it and worried about it, spun it around in my head multiple times. But then when I finally talked to that person, either I misunderstood the negative comment or that person wasn't really being negative at all. They simply just wanted more information about what I did or what I was going to do, kind of the why behind it all. I had a leader once tell me, questions are simply a quest for understanding. So think about that, Chad. If people are coming to you with even hard questions, they may or may not be attacking you. Most of the time, as I've found, they aren't attacking you. They don't understand something you did or something you're doing or why you're doing it. They just want at the main level, they just want more information. They want more understanding. So criticism. Again, it's hard to take. We all have a sensitive side to us, no matter how hard somebody may come off. But it's hard to take. But it can be a useful tool for us to grow, and learning how to respond to criticism in a constructive way can actually help you be more successful. It builds this resilience in you to realize that the criticism isn't necessarily a personal attack. Is in the work world especially. The only time that I really get flustered now is when people are criticizing my family on some level. And it doesn't happen a lot, but there have been times in the past where I get criticized for something about my family or things like that. And I just, I get very defensive of my family. So don't criticize my family. Anyway, so what do we do with this? Let's kind of get back to the main thing. How do we handle the criticism that comes, especially when it has to do with you being a leader and making changes, and I'm going to be specific, in a nonprofit or a church, okay? Well, the first thing is this. Take time to reflect, okay? Take time to reflect on that criticism. When you're criticized, it's important to kind of take a step back and really reflect on the situation. Now, that's difficult when you're kind of in a heated conversation, but maybe it's time to just kind of take a breath and ask yourself questions like, what's the criticism really about? What can I learn from this? How can I use this to improve either the way I'm going about the change or the way I'm responding to the criticism? Taking some time to think about the criticism and its implications can help you respond in a more measured and constructive way. So this, you've been in conversations and it gets a little tense, and once the emotions kick in, boy, there's a ratio I saw where the higher the intensity of the emotions, the lower the productivity and positive outcome possibilities become. Okay, so just think about that. When you're starting to bubble up inside, the less likely it is that the conversation you're having is going to have a positive outcome. Okay, so you got to take time to reflect, kind of get in control of those emotions. The second one is in how to respond to criticism is listen carefully. Okay, listening carefully to criticism is one of the most important steps in responding to it. Okay, so pay attention to the words and the tone of the criticism and make sure you understand what the person is saying. Don't respond if you receive an email or a text, which is so easy to do nowadays when people are criticizing. Don't respond back if you feel like it's a criticism. Don't respond back with text or email. Give the person a call, because there's so much. This isn't rocket science. There's so much behind emails and texts that people just use words differently, and some of them are triggers for you or triggers for them, and it just gets messed up. So just go right to the person, drop a quick phone call, maybe take them out for coffee, and just make sure you're understanding them correctly. Don't be too quick to jump to conclusions or get defensive. Okay, the more you actually listen to the person who has the criticism, the more you'll be able to understand the criticism and respond appropriately. So that's the second one. First one was take time to reflect. Second one is listen carefully. And once I get through the next two, I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask that person, even in the moment, that are really going to help. Okay, so keep listening and keep watching on the YouTube channel. So take time to reflect, listen carefully. The third one has to do with the emotions I just mentioned. Stay calm. So much easier said than done. It's especially if you're passionate about the change that you're making. It's only natural to feel angry and upset when you're criticized, but it's important to stay calm. Okay, take a few deep breaths. Try to stay focused on the conversation. Don't let your emotions take over, or you may say or do something that you're going to regret. Again, the more the intensity of the emotion rises, the less potential that a positive outcome is going to happen. Okay, it's graphed, it's scientific. Okay, try and stay as neutral as you can, listen empathetically, and just try and keep those emotions in check as you are being checked, if you will. Okay, so just try and stay calm. I mean, it's natural to get angry. The fourth one then is this: offer solutions. Okay, offer solutions. Once you've taken time to reflect and listen to the criticism, then it's time to respond. Instead of getting defensive or arguing, try to offer solutions. I like to use the phrase, well, what if, and then I throw out something. Well, what if this? Try to, and what you're doing is trying to get that person and yourself looking in the same direction rather than looking at each other. Okay, just visualize that, where you're standing shoulder to shoulder, looking at the problem, looking at the change, looking at what the criticism is, rather than you looking at each other and kind of battling it out. Try and offer solutions, right? Show that you're taking the criticism seriously and that you're really willing to make some changes or some concessions or continue the conversation about the change. I mean, this is going to demonstrate that you're open to feedback and that you're willing to grow. And I'll tell you from personal experience, Chad, and you know this, you're a longtime leader in the church. When you are making a decision and you're able to wrap in other people, especially people that you feel might be against the decision, when you can at least let them know that you're listening and maybe act on some of the things that they're saying, oh my goodness, your credibility as a leader is not only heightened, but deepened with them. You build a relationship of trust, okay? Then in future decisions that you're going to have to make, if they're difficult, then you have more credibility, and that the person who might consistently be criticizing you, they will come away going, you know what, I disagree. I don't like this change. I don't think it's going to be good, but I trust Chad because in the past, he's been trustworthy, okay? So it's very, very key if you're a leader to build that trust, and you do that by involving people in decisions that you might think they might be against. Okay, that made sense in my head. I'm not so sure if it made sense coming out of my voice. So if you're watching on YouTube, you know that I'm kind of looking all around the room going, did that make sense? Anyway, so those are the four strategies to help keep your cool. Take time to reflect, listen carefully, stay calm, offer solutions. But now I want to give you 3 questions that you can actually, if you're in conversation with somebody who's criticizing you, these 3 questions are so key. It can change the outcome of your relationship. It can change it can actually change the way you go about the decision and spare you from making a decision that might blow up the whole organization. So here are 3 questions about change that you can ask the person. The first one, it kind of goes back to take time to reflect. You ask the person who's bringing the change, what specifically is your focus of concern? Okay, so in the past, I've been charged with taking I'll put it in a church situation. I've been charged with taking more of a traditional style worship service and at least bringing it to be a little bit more contemporary. So I added lights to the backdrop of the sanctuary and the altar area. And when I say it's more of a team thing. But our team, several on our team kind of freshened up the place to make it look good for guests as they came in to church, especially younger folks who didn't like the old traditional look of a church. So had some old timers come to me and just say, "Oh, you're making it look like the local non-denominational church that's all the smoke and mirrors, and we don't want that." And so I said, "Well, specifically, what's your concern?" And it was just that they weren't concerned about the lights. I'll just use the uplighting on the backdrop. They weren't concerned about the lights. They were concerned that they were going to lose the sense of tradition that they came to enjoy and love in the traditional worship service. So it wasn't about the lights. It was their area of concern was what the next steps would be, and would those steps lead for them to lose their sense of tradition in that service. Okay, so that's the first question. Specifically, drill down. What is actually your concern about this change? Second one is, how has this change affected you personally? And typically, it's nothing. Typically, that question is kind of it hasn't. Because just the uplighting, unless they absolutely don't like the color of the lights or it blinds them or something like that, most of the time there isn't an actual effect personally for the person. So now, if you're restructuring the church staffing organization or governance or your business governance and how it's structured, then there's going to be a personal effect. Okay, but typically there's really, and Chad, again, I'm for those of you who are listening who aren't in church world, that's specific to church world, this conversation, but most of the time, it doesn't actually affect them personally, okay? So the first question is, what specifically is your focus of concern? What's really concerning you? What's the real issue here? How has that change affected you personally? And then the third one is, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Change for most people is scary because and I think I've been preaching and teaching on this the last several months actually. Certainty and familiarity equals security for people, but uncertainty and change creates that feeling of fear. So asking, what are you actually afraid of, gets them into a mode of conversation that can be very, very, very healthy. And then from that, you can reflect back and you can say, okay, I hear you. I totally understand that. But can I share with you why we made these changes? Because most people maybe don't even know why you're making the change. Chad, why is it that you're making the change with your new member class? Going from, and I'm taking a guess here, going from this 9-week behemoth course that you have to take to maybe a 1 or 2 session course to become a member and then encouraging them to grow. That's kind of what I'm guessing is happening with you right now. But, responding and saying, can I share with you why we made these changes? Here's the vision of why we're making this change and how it can be better. So that you tie it all back to the vision of the organization or just a simple why. And then the person's going to have 3 responses: a red light response, a yellow light response, or a green light response. And so the red light response is, oh my goodness, that's so dumb. I disagree. I don't like it. But again, they're then going to have to live with that angst, and you can help and coach them along with that. Once you share the vision, they could have a yellow light response, which is just kind of neutral, like, yeah, whatever. I still disagree, but whatever. A green light response is, oh my goodness, I totally agree. Yeah, and this is going to be a good change. How can I help? So that's kind of the 3 responses you're probably going to get from those 3 questions. So as leaders, we can learn again from their perspective. Make sure you're listening to their concerns. What is it really that you're afraid of in this change? And you can use those words because it is fear or concern, but it is fear. And then it gets back to this whole thing ties all the way back to the beginning quote. Eat the fish, spit out the bones. What does that actually mean? Well, you eat the fish. What are some things that this person who has the concern, who has the criticism, are there good things that they're saying? Is there something that they're saying that is good and that's healthy that you can learn from and grow from and invite them in on? But then you also have to spit out the bones. You go, you know what? I get what you're saying, but you're seeing this wrong or differently or something like that. So eat the fish, spit out the bones. Again, Chad, we're talking about church world here, and those of you who are listening, there's a Bible verse in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, 19 to 22 that basically says this: don't scoff at prophecies, but test everything that is said. Hold on to what is good. Stay away from every kind of evil. Hold on to the fish. Hold on to that which is good that you hear from that person, but stay away from the evil bones, if you will. Oh, man, that's a lot. But, Chad and those listening, learning how to respond to criticism in a constructive way is an important skill. It can help you stay cool and collected and open to what's called constructive criticism. I actually don't like that phrase for a couple of reasons, but you know what I'm talking about. But by taking time to reflect, to listen carefully, to stay calm, offer solutions, ask those questions and just try and work with the person, you can respond to criticism in a way that will help you grow and make you become a more successful leader and build and deepen that relationship with the people that actually have the criticisms. Okay, Chad. Well, and those listening, I hope that has been helpful. Those listening, again, you are the reason why I do this podcast every week and why I do the Monday Motivations every week. And all of these are on pivotpreneur.com. All of those are on the podcast, both the Monday Motivations and our Friday normal Pivotpreneur podcast. Those are all on Apple, iTunes. Again, go over, give me a rating. I only got 2 ratings at this point. We are a little bit new, but the more ratings we get, the more this message can get out to more and more people. And again, the YouTube is kind of a new thing, so you can go to Pivotpreneur and see us on YouTube. There's other YouTube shorts and different things we're putting on there to help you become a better leader, to help you make changes in your life. And then also the course that I created, 5 Steps to Finding Work and basically a life that you love, is also available. That's basically my whole coaching program that I have with people that I charge $3,000 plus for. It's streamed. I put everything I could think of into these 6 modules, and so you can just kind of go at a self-pace, 6 modules, and that you can get to at a very discounted price for right now, but it's going to be going up in the next couple of months. So get over to pivotpreneur.com, and let me spell it, Pivot, Pivot, Preneur, Preneur, like entrepreneur, but pivotpreneur.com, or toddstalker.com. That has all the links and also all the different topics that you like to hear. Make sure you send in a question like Chad did or Amy did last week, and we will tackle those on the podcast with your permission, obviously, of course. So again, thanks again. Remember, if you discover, develop, deploy your purpose, you too can become a pivotpreneur and find work that you love. Make it a great day. We'll see you next time.